So, hello everyone. On behalf of Pune Knowledge Cluster, I welcome you all to our talk series, Conversation with Women Role Model in STEM. Our guest today is Dr. Apurva Deshmukh Kamble, and who's been working with Praj Industries in Pune as a senior staff scientist. So, I am Ritika Ganguly, and I'll be moderating the session today. We have many students today, teachers and experts who are in this session. A good amount of them are current Vigyan Scholarship awardees who are doing the research supported by Vigyan. So, in the interest of the younger audience and newer people who have joined this talk series, I would like to first start with introducing our organization. So, Pune Knowledge Cluster has been established by the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to the Government of India. It aims to bring together academia, R&D institutions, and industries in and around Pune to address some of the challenging problems of the region through innovative means, using scientific approaches and engaging highly skilled human resources. We host this monthly talk series as part of our Vigyan Mentorship and Scholarship Program, which is an initiative for promoting chemistry amongst young students, women especially. This program is supported by BASF Chemicals India Private Limited, and it has been implemented by Pune Knowledge Cluster since 2022. Through this talk series, we aim to bring forward the journey of leading women in various fields of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We hope that this initiative will inspire young women to break gender stereotypes, societal barriers, and encourage them to pursue careers in STEM. Now, I'd like to take this opportunity to briefly introduce our speaker today, Dr. Apurva, who was working as a senior staff scientist at Praj Matrix R&D Center, a division of Praj Industries, where she started her career in 2015. She is an alumnus of Modern College, Shivaji Nagar in Ganeshkhin, Department of Technology, Pune University, where she did her MSc and BSc in biotechnology. She then went on to do an integrated MTech PhD in chemical and biotechnology jointly from Pune University and Praj. And she is a recipient of the Gold Medalist Award for PhD thesis on waste valorization, which was titled Development of Bioprocess for the Production of 2,3-butane Dr. Apurva has 13 years of experience working in the industry, and her expertise cover microbial fermentation process. She has successfully developed and optimized strain engineering and bioprocesses for innovative solutions for industrial projects. She has experience in training researchers and has overseen technology transfer for large-scale production, ensuring compliance with regulatory standards. So she was recognized as an inventor in a patent for improving fungal enzyme production through developing innovative bioprocess solutions. And in 2024, she was awarded the Stellar Performance Award for successfully achieving 100% glycerol reduction in yeast through adaptive lab evolution methods. In the future, she intends to leverage her experience to contribute towards impactful research. She also has a keen interest in helping young people navigate the industry ecosystem and wants to inform us today about novel and emerging opportunities. She also has an advice that only discipline and unwavering commitment makes everything possible. Through her talk today, she will provide career insights and lessons learned through her journey, and it is titled My Insights and Deliberate Strategies Fostering Career Exploration in Industry. Now, before we get started, I'd like to give a few instructions for the session. We will have a 45 minutes presentation by our guest speaker. This will be followed by a moderated session for 30 minutes. After that, there will be 15 minutes of Q&A with the audience. A link for the feedback form will be posted on the chat box, so please do fill it out. We will be sending certificates of participation only to those who fill this feedback form. With this, I think I extend a very warm welcome to Dr. Apurva Kamble and invite her to take the session forward. Over to you, Apurva.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ritika. This was indeed a very, it was a very elaborative introduction, and I'm really humbled to hear all of this. And I first want to thank Ritika and the whole team of PKC. They have been very patient with me, and they have been very kind with me to understand throughout my schedules. I was not on time, but still Ritika managed to, keep up with me. So I applaud for your resilience, and I really give a message to all the students that you are in very great hands for you are being guarded by mentors who are actually striving so hard for you. So great. Thank you so much, Ritika. Now, I would start with my presentation. I just want one help. If I minimize my video, is that okay? I mean, the side screen, it's okay, right?
Yes, it's okay. We can still,
You can still see me, right?
the presentation slide is quite big, so that's not a problem at all.
Yeah, sure. Okay, fine. Thank you. So, good evening, all, and I'm very happy to speak for Vigyan today and PKC, as in Pune Knowledge Cluster. It's my home ground, so I did all my education in Pune, and then giving a talk for audience of PKC has been a really an experience which completes the experience circle today. So basically coming back to the roots. So I'm really happy to talk to you today. So my presentation is titled My Insights and Deliberate Strategies Fostering a Career Exploration in the Industry. So I know most of you who have taken their education as BSc Biotechnology, MSc Biotechnology, or BSc Science, whatever your specialization field being, who are mostly interested in understanding how can I make most of my education. And when you say that when you want to make most of your education, the first thing that comes in your mind is perhaps I'll be a professor or maybe I'll join an industry. That are the two options that you look at as in. And professor is then you have some of your, elder brother, elder uncle, elder sister who has been in teaching field and you follow their footsteps. But, you rarely have somebody who is there in the industry and you feel that okay, perhaps it is a matter of luck, and perhaps even if I go, I won't be able to last for long because there'll be always pressure, always something that I have to prove everything every day. And then am I of that potential to sustain that competitive life of industry, and how to get there basically? That's the question that everybody thinks upon. So I'm here to, break down that question into simple parts, and I'll just open you avenues by which you can be a successful entrant in the industry. And even if it is not an industry, you can still work for a significant part of that industry. I have made my presentation such that I will give you insights that, that will trigger you to learn, to, search more about the avenues that you can explore in order to make a significant mark in the scientific industry. Okay, so we'll start our presentation. My name is Dr. Apurva Deshmukh Kamre. I have completed my PhD in Chemical and Biotechnology. I did this PhD from Department of Technology and Praj Industries Limited. It was a joint program of Industry Academia Partnership in which I completed my PhD. So my PhD was an industrial project and my coursework used to happen in the university. So that is how this was the first of a kind program that was launched in Maharashtra. This was launched in the year 2011, and I was in the first batch of students that were enrolled for the MTech PhD program. So I hold an integrated MTech PhD degree in chemical and biotechnology. So let's begin. So I would like to elaborately explain my career path. So I did my BSc and MSc in biotechnology from 2006 to 2011. So I completed my bachelor's and master's in biotechnology in this 5 years. And then I went ahead to then I went ahead to give a competitive exam. This competitive exam was first of a kind launched for an admission to integrated MTech PhD. So this was conducted by the Department of Technology, and the pass outs, or the merit list holders were actually interviewed by a panel from the industry. So that is how I got entrance as I got enrolled as a integrated MTech PhD trainee in Praj Industries. So once I got enrolled, I did my PhD for the period of 5 years, 2011 to 2016. So once I completed my PhD in 2016, I was absorbed as an on-roll employee, as a permanent employee in from 2016. And from 2016 to 2025, I was serving as a professional in Praj Matrix, a division of Praj Industries. And then uh, I have now shifted my profile because I am into some situation where I have to work remotely. Therefore, I'm working as a freelance consultant with Praj Industries, where I'm working as a technology support officer at the moment. So basically, what is Praj? I would like to give an introduction of Praj. So Praj is actually a company who works in the field of agri-biotechnology. So you see waste valorization being the prime focus of Praj Industries. So the first uh, target product that was produced out of waste valorization was ethanol, basically. So Praj has been doing a lot of work in the space of biomobility. So our target areas is to produce ethanol from molasses, ethanol from lignocellulosic biomass, ethanol from starchy feedstock. Now we are also into the space of renewable chemicals and materials because, uh, as you know, ethanol will form CO2. We have technologies of hydrogen as well. We have electric buses as well. So for a company to think in the long run, we are venturing into alternative products that needs attention. Now, that is why we are into renewable chemicals and materials. And now we are widely looking for expanding our technology for polylactic acid. Polylactic acid is used for the production of biodegradable plastic. So it has been a wonderful journey to get associated with Praj, to work for the field of sustainability, to work for the betterment of the society, and also to upskill your career in a very constructive way. Now, my expertise. So, Praj works in the area of chemistry as well as microbial biotechnology. I was working in the area of microbial biotechnology since my background was in biology. So, my expertise is I have 13 years of experience in in microbial biotechnology research. And I have been trained to work in GXP compliant environment. Since it's an industry research, the final technology has to be a GXP compliant mode. Hence, I mean, that was that was the nature of the research that was conducted at Praj. My expertise lies in synthetic biology, microbial bioprocess technology, and biochemistry. And I have upskilled myself. So I was into research for a lot of time and still am as in. But it is important to go with the flow. मराठीमध्ये आपण जे म्हणतो काळानुरूप चाललं पाहिजे. So this is the age of digitalization. Okay, we want everything in limited time. So, and also we need to leverage our scientific knowledge. So I did some upskilling at my end in blogging, in content creation, in email marketing, and in regulatory affairs. So that is what this is what I hold today, and these are the areas for which I actually am building my brand to leverage my scientific knowledge to work in different areas. Now, career growth strategies. So one thing I would like to humbly state, I did everything in India. I did not go out of India. To be very specific, I did everything in Pune. Right from my schooling to my college to my PhD, I think I did everything in Pune. Okay. So, what were the strategies that I followed that took me to this stage that, I could build a successful industrial career? So, my mantra was I let my situation write my career story. Okay. So, wherever I am, I have to excel there. Today, I'm in college, I have to excel in my subjects. Tomorrow, I'm in industry, I have to excel in my meetings. Tomorrow, I am in a remote environment. I have to excel in those of my duties. Tomorrow, I am in the chemistry department. I have to excel at my work. That was my story. I let my situation write my career story. Okay, so firstly, I enrolled for this program as I earlier told in my in the earlier slide that I have completed my bachelor's and master's in biotechnology. So biotechnology was my focus. So my mantra was to be sincere and be hardworking. That was the only thing. So there I was sincere and sincere. then second thing, what I could only do is, after BSc and MSc was not enough. I always wanted to, go, I wanted to have an earning potential कि MSc के बाद मुझे अपने आप को प्रूव करने आना चाहिए. I should be in a good position wherein I'm employed. That was my whole focus. Now, employed in a long term was good for me. Employed in a short term was a second choice for me. For example, there were many positions MSc ke baad. We have research institute openings where they have 1 year, 2 year, and they have excellent upskilling opportunities, research upskilling opportunities there. So I was also looking at that, but priority was to continue my education, continue my PhD. So I did target the right competitive exams. So I did a CSIR NET exam, I did ICMR exam, I did this integrated MTech PhD exam. So out of 3 exams that I gave out after my MSc, I could crack 2. So I could crack ICMR exam and I could crack this integrated MTech PhD exam. Since everything, the result of integrated MTech PhD right to appointment in Praj was quicker, I did take up the path of industry. Had I taken up, ICMR as an exam today, my situation would have been different. But since I got there, I got there. So I had no criteria fixed onto myself that, I want to work in plant, animal, or microbial. Because I used to think unless I go there and understand what it takes for that technology or what hard work it takes for that technology, I was not in a good position to, understand, to select whether I want to be in plant, animal, or microbial. So since Praj was into microbial technology, my situation was I have to excel now in microbial biotechnology. So that was the turning point of my career where I got an opportunity to enter into the industry. I knew nobody from the industry. I had no network at all. Freshly passed out MSc, just targeted the right entrance exam, just cracked the interview and the written exam, and just entered the industry. This has been my plain simple story. And then once into Praj, I taught myself that I have to adapt to this environment. Okay, there were no peers basically. I had only one of my batchmate who was pursuing her PhD, and some of them who were already an employees were given an opportunity of PhD, and two of us who had come. One of my batchmate had come from BTech biotechnology background, and she was pursuing her she also had got through this route, and I had come after my MSc and also doing this exam. So there were no peers as such. People used to look at me in a strange way. You look at us in a strange way rather, that how are you pursuing your education in an industry? This is first of a kind, as in. But then we paved that path. We both of us, things were not streamlined for us. Basically, our department of technology at University of Pune was new. We did have, we had some the appointment of professors was also ongoing. It was not established. So, but we both were resilient that we have to adapt to this situation. हमें 5 साल में ये PhD complete करनी ही है. हमें कुछ भी ये जो issues होते हैं, administrative issues होते हैं, इनको अपने केस में लाना नहीं है. So we used to eat the head of our HOD that, how to get through this PhD. Then we got hold of the Pune University guidelines, and then we did some back calculation. When do we have to submit our, proposal defense? When do we have to submit our synopsis? When do we have to submit our thesis? Where do we have to go? What are the formats? All of this, we did it from scratch and we adapted to that environment. So adaptation to the university and adaptation to the industry, and nobody knew nothing. My PhD, I was the first student of my PhD guide as well, and he trained me excellently. Whatever he has given, the shape that he has given to my way of thinking has actually is helping me till date in advancing my career. So I thank my PhD guide, Dr. Rishi Jain, who actually helped me to think on a broader scale while I was doing my PhD. So that time, that is more important. You have to adapt, perform, and perform through quality work. So experiment nahi bhi chalta hai to bhi you have to try twice, try thrice, try 4 times. Let people criticize, let people laugh at you. You have to work towards, excellence. Even if you don't get perfect, it's okay. Seek excellence, don't seek perfection. This is what I followed there. The fourth thing that I would tell is continuously upskill. So upskilling has no age, no stage of career. This is what I feel. So when I was doing my PhD, I had to come down to my, what are the problem areas that I have to actually address in the whole thing. So basically, I had to learn recombinant DNA technology. I had to learn medium optimization. So design of experiment. So what is a full factorial design? What is a fractional factorial design? What is an evolutionary operation? What is a genetic algorithm? So I had to go through everything. Even though I don't implement it or I implement the most convenient thing, I had to have a knowledge of everything. So continuous upskilling is a mandate. Secondly, upskilling on the digital things. For example, upskilling what it takes for Excel. Upskilling in Excel is also very important. So we have to train yourself in order to analyze data. So understand how do you do a t-test, understand how do you do an ANOVA, understand what is a p-value, understand what is the level of significance, what is the standard that we call that a result is marginally significant, what is the standard that we call that a result is significant, what is the standard that we call that a result is insignificant, how to do those calculations in Excel, what are the plugins that are required in Excel. Some presentation skills are required throughout the time, some communication skills. You have to write an email, you have to get your sample analyzed from the analytical team. Okay, then you have to write an email to that person. Then sometimes you have a fluke in the result, or you have some kind of outlier in the result. You have to address that outlier. You have to go to that machine, you have to learn communication skills, you have to talk with the analyst, you have to understand if there could be some alternative ways in which we can get more accurate result. This is the way it is very important to continuously upskill, continuously open your mind for interdisciplinary learning. Then fifth strategy that I use is network and participate in interdisciplinary learning. I already covered, but network is very, very important. For example, once in an industry, you are a part of that community. You are not a biologist. You are, I mean, definitely you are paid for your skill, but you have to do whatever the industry needs. Tomorrow, if there is a business aspect related to it, you have to do it. There are times still today wherein I have to speak to arrange tea coffee also, and also I have to understand give a scientific way of my presentation. So networking with each individual is very, very important in everywhere. You never know what you will require to prove yourself tomorrow. Okay. Thirdly is be resilient and be a solution seeker. So resilience is very important. Being a woman, I feel that you cover different stages of life. I mean, I would not go into any negative details, or I don't want to bias that woman community कि आपको तो बहुत सारे stages से जाना पड़ता है anything. Everybody goes through many different stages of health, life, and etc. But it is more more obvious in case of women, because biologically they have to get married, take up responsibilities, bear a child and everything. So tomorrow you will be into different phases where you won't have that much of you would want to leave things basically. So it is very important to be resilient in those stages of life where you don't want to work, you still have to train, you still have to be self motivated to work, एंड यू हैव टू बी अ सोल्यूशन सीकर. सो ठीक है, आज मेरे से नहीं हो रहा है, कल 2 काम हो जाएंगे क्या, कल 3 काम हो जाएंगे क्या. सो यू हैव टू बी अ सोल्यूशन सीकर. सो दिस इज हाउ वर माई स्ट्रेटजीज इन which I did implement while developing my career. So, what are the work environment and industry dynamics? Industrial biotechnology thrives on cross-functional teams. That I told you that you have to interact with a HPLC analyst, with GC analyst. You have to interact with chemical sciences people. So they do not know anything about a cell in a biology, and you do not know anything about the electrostatic interaction that they are talking about. So you have to come to a midline in which you can make that scientific knowledge practically work. So basically, you have to be open for interdisciplinary learning. You have to be open to work in cross-functional teams. So the primary focus in an industry is robust product development and successful commercialization. This requires a blend of scientific rigor and market understanding. So basically, you have to be end-to-end ready. Then adherence to regulatory standards and stringent quality control is paramount, ensuring product safety and efficacy. And the roles often combine technical laboratory work with strategic business oriented tasks, bridging the gap between scientific discovery and market application. So your role can be an end to end or somewhere within the end. But growing your career in an industry, you have to be open for all kind of knowledge that you are expected to execute along your way. So when I talk about what are my industrial research contributions, so basically, I being in an industry, it is not possible for me to highlight everything that I have worked upon, or I cannot reveal everything in the public domain. But the research contributions that are out in the public domain in the form of publications or patents, I would like to give a glimpse of that. So basically, my PhD problem was development for a bioprocess for the production of 2,3-butanediol. Now, what is 2,3-butanediol? 2,3-butanediol is a platform molecule. Platform molecule is a molecule which has a lot of potential applications. So basically, it is used for the production of 1,3-butadiene and also which is used for the production of synthetic rubber. Also, it is used for the production of large amount of industrial solvents. So it has a number of applications. So that is a platform molecule. So what my the business case came up with the idea that we want to biologically produce it. It is being produced through chemicals, through the petrochemical route, and we do not want to depend on the petrochemical route. We have a customer who is asking for the biological route. So we started investigating what could be the possible alternatives, and with a team effort, it came down that we actually went ahead in by using Bacillus subtilis as a microorganism of choice, which was a grass microorganism that is generally regarded as safe, and it was worked upon for preparing. It was targeted as the producer microorganism for the production of 2,3-butanediol. Now, when it came to designing a research program, so the primary thing is where do your maximum expenditure goes. The maximum expenditure goes in the capital investment. Investment. We call it capital expenditure, the capex basically. So basically, whatever materials you are required in order to produce the 2,3-butanediol incur most of your fundings. Okay, so it is important that you produce the chemical with a minimal number of nutrient load into the medium. For example, if you see the case of ethanol with yeast, yeast requires only molasses and urea. बाकी कुछ नहीं लगता है उनको yeast को. So it is a very convenient process. That is why you get ethanol at a very pocket-friendly rate when it produced through a biological process. But when it comes to other molecules, some bacteria or some yeast have stringent nutrient requirements for their secondary metabolism to function in order to gain those biomolecules. So for 2,3-butanediol, we started in researching what are the basic things required and what could be the minimal essentials for a successful batch of 2,3-butanediol with 100 gram per liter of sugars. So after a lot of research, we found out that, Consteep liquor, yeast extract, ammonium sulfate, MnSO4 are inevitably required. Okay. Now the situation came up that, we have to reduce this medium cost. So what is the most expensive component in this is yeast extract. Yeast extract is very costly. Any commercial process you see, yeast extract is not seen into that process. Unless the product cost is very high for bulk biomolecules, yeast extract is not a preferred choice. So I did a evolutionary operation time of experimental runs. I did analyze the data of all my runs and came up with a medium design which involved only Consteep liquor, soybean meal, and potassium chloride. So basically, my yeast extract and ammonium sulfate were replaced by soybean meal. So when we did the cost calculations, it was found that my 50% medium cost was reduced by this exercise. So the new medium composition had 50% lower price than the original medium. So this of my research has been published in this paper, Production of 2,3-butanediol from sugarcane molasses using Bacillus subtilis. Then once you had 2,3-butanediol, then there was another question. Basically, 2,3-butanediol was targeted from glucose in molasses. So molasses contains sucrose, which is broken down into glucose and fructose, and both of which are metabolized through glycolysis to form pyruvate, and this pyruvate is further metabolized to form 2,3-butanediol. Now, what happened is there was some proportion of acetone being seen unreacted into the medium. So the final the sugars were utilized. 100 gram per liter batch was completely successful with zero sugar left at the end of 72 hours. But still you could see certain unreacted or unconverted acetone being there into the broth. So in order to address this problem that, there is some acetone being still remaining into the broth, we tried to understand how can we drive the flux of acetone to 2,3-butanediol. How can we just push the thing in order to minimize the residual acetone that is formed at the end of fermentation. So I thought of the strategy called as cofactor engineering. So there is this enzyme called as formate dehydrogenase from Candida boydini. What it does is it forms NADH from NAD. And the reaction of acetone to 2,3-butanediol requires NADH. So as you can see over here, this cycle functions that if in a cell we do have formate dehydrogenase, NADH is produced by this reaction, and this NADH is utilized for the production of 2,3-butanediol. So what we did is in order to execute this reaction in vitro or sorry in vivo, what we did is we actually took this gene from Candida boydini and we cloned it in a plasmid vector called as PHCMC05. That's the brand, that's the name of that vector. So we did clone it in PHCMC05, and this vector we transformed into Bacillus subtilis wild type strain, that is the 1A1 strain. Once it was transformed into it, we saw that there was a decrease in acetone by 13%. So acetone, which was earlier accumulated, now did not accumulate into the medium. So this was the byproduct removal that was achieved by cofactor engineering. So this research was also covered into a publication, that is engineering of Bacillus subtilis for the production of 2,3-butanediol from sugarcane molasses. So firstly, I derived the production medium, I reduced the cost of that medium, and then I worked towards the reducing the byproduct that is produced in the process of production of 2,3-butanediol. Now, going on, I also got to work upon many projects when so basically after my PhD, I joined as a associate staff scientist at Praj Industries in December 2016. And once I joined there, I was working on different projects for like all were biomolecules. Some of them I cannot reveal because of the business constraints or because of some of the non-disclosure agreements that I have with the company. But I was working on many biomolecules in that time. So, but we were working on this project, which was actually patented, and this is out in the public domain. So basically, Praj has, in order to give you a background of what this research was, which led to a patent was, Praj is always working for, production of ethanol technology. Okay. So when you develop a technology, there are challenges that come up in the business and you want to address them in an alternative way. So for example, the process for production of ethanol from molasses is called as first generation technology. We call it as 1G technology. When we have grain to ethanol production, we call it as 1.5G technology. Then when we have lignocellulose to ethanol conversion, we call it as 2G technology. Now what used to happen is what is this technology of 2G? I'll first explain that. I'm sorry if I'm hurrying up things. So I'll first explain that. So basically, as you can see over here, the plant consists of the lignin layer, the hemicellulose, and the cellulose layer. Now, what is an hemicellulose layer? Hemicellulose is a C5 chain, C5 polymer, you can say, and cellulose is a C6 polymer. Okay, so there are C5 and C6 units which are hidden inside the lignin layer, which can be used up by the yeast for the production of ethanol. Okay, now only problem is this lignin layer being too hard to crack. The technology of Praj uses mild acid treatment. Mild acid is a combination of mineral acid and organic acid. Okay, now when your plant substrate is treated with a mineral and organic acid, what happens is you get some kind of inhibitory compounds. Okay, so the lignin is broken down, but some part of acid does react with the cellulose and the hemicellulose units. It gives rise to the formation of HMF and furfular. HMF and furfular formation, or toxin formation, you can say, inhibits the growth of yeast, and also you see a loss of substrate that was otherwise being used for ethanol production. So now this was the problem. So how to address it? So maybe we want to save upon the carbon that is getting reacted with the acid. We want to make use of it. So our team, there was a solution that had come up within Prajas to use the natural sources in order to address the lignin. Now, naturally, who can address, or who can attack lignin? Basically, you see mushrooms growing everywhere in the environment. You always see them on the, tree trunks, or, damp areas of the tree trunks or anything. So they grow on wood surfaces, basically. So there must be some enzymes with the mushrooms whom we actually work upon can actually degrade lignin. So enzymes have a very specific nature. For example, glucose isomerase will never act on xylose. Glucose isomerase will never act on phenyl. Okay. So basically, since enzyme have a very specific nature, there is a huge chance that if your lignin is attacked by enzymes, your cellulose and hemicellulose are free. So that is how you get recovery of your carbon, which was otherwise converted into toxin, and also you do not get you do not get any effect on the growth of the yeast. Okay, so we started researching on what could be the lignin modifying enzymes that are present into these kind of mushrooms. So mushrooms, to call it in a scientific manner, these are called as white rot fungi. Okay, so this was a fungal system. Okay, so we tried to address this fungal system for its extent to produce lignin modifying enzymes. So, our team came out with a process in which the agricultural feedstock was pre-treated with lignin modifying enzyme, what we call as LME over here, to produce a reaction mixture. Then this reaction mixture was separated into solids and liquids. Then the solids were washed with water so that the lignin modifying enzymes is removed from it. It was treated by alkaline peroxidase, a mild alkali treatment. So you can also address the lignin issue with alkali. Praj's patented technology uses acids, but there is an alternative alkali treatment also, which is a milder one, but it is not a preferred choice in plants because of its higher cost. But since we were using it in a very moderate amount, we chose the alkaline peroxide method to wash the lignin modifying enzyme. And once you have this lignin modifying enzyme and alkaline peroxide treated substrate, now you have this, cellulose and hemicellulose layer free to be attacked upon by cellulases. So this polymer is broken down into cellulose, hemicellulose, sorry, glucose and xylose, which can be taken up by the fungi to produce ethanol. Okay, so basically my contribution here was I did some medium optimization trials. So lignin modifying enzyme is an inducible enzyme. For example, if you grow mushroom in the presence of glucose, what it will do, it will not produce lignin modifying enzyme. It doesn't need to. Why will it spare its energy to create that enzyme which it does not require? So it was an inducible enzyme. So we did some medium optimization experiment, identified the right inducers, identified, lignosulfonate was the major inducer by which we could increase the titer of enzyme to 1.445 lakh unit per liter. So this was my contribution basically when this patent work was being framed upon. So since the enzyme was in larger amount, we could take multiple batches, and also we could incorporate this work into the patent, where we did some medium optimization, and uh, by which we could increase lactase titers. And once it reached this threshold, that is nearly 1 to 1.5 lakh unit per liter, we did further optimization experiments, and we could achieve state of art titers then for lactase activity. for lignin modifying enzyme activity. So this was the whole work that was there, and visible results was you could see rice straw, these microscopic images here. You could see rice straw. You can see water treated. There are only few gaps there which are produced by water treated. But when you treat it with enzyme, you can see the nature being highly distorted. So a highly distorted nature allows areas for cellulase to go in, and to actually break up these moieties to produce monomeric glucose and xylose units, which can be taken up by the yeast for the production of ethanol. So this was the patent number, and this the work of medium optimization and enzyme activity increase for improved delignification. Whole of this work has also been published in this publication. So apart from this work, I have worked with Praj Industries for high expression of proteins and enzymes in Pichia pastores. So we could achieve with some kind of developing strategies, we could achieve very high titers of protein, which is quite not a very regular event when we work with Pichia pastores. So we did some kind of good developmental studies of protein production with this kind of organism. Then I also work for strain engineering through adaptive lab evolution. So as mentioned earlier, we are working for research in the GXP compliant environments. So when you talk about strain engineering, you make a deliberate change into the organism. It so happens that you leave a scar. You leave a antibiotic selectable marker into the strain. What happens is if you allow that antibiotic marker to remain into the strain and it gets exposed to the environment, it gets transmits to other strain by different biological methods, and that is how you create antibiotic resistant strains into the environment. So the regulatory bodies do not allow any kind of commercial strain a commercial strain to be embedded with kind of any antibiotic marker. So it is a mandate that even if you change the strain, you have to find a means to remove the antibiotic marker. Or the next strategy is you naturally develop the strain. So there is this technology which is upcoming called as adaptive lab evolution. So in commercial processes, inhibitor tolerance is a very big issue. You have to create strains which are tolerant to severe conditions of growth, and you have to make the strain robust. So adaptive lab evolution in a chemostat has become a very it's a modern technology, or it is a technology that has been in good demand. So basically, we also did some adaptive lab evolution trials for our latest lactic acid project that you see flashing around on LinkedIn, that Praj is working on lactic acid. So we have done this kind of studies there. Then we have done classical mutagenesis. I have worked on classical mutagenesis as well, just for the thing that GXP compliance require either the marker removal or you work in a natural way. So I have this experience of working on such kind of processes. Then I have worked on separation of proteins and its purification. Then I have also worked on biotransformation reactions. Then I have widely worked on enzyme assay development for all of our enzymes that require in our processes, most of our enzymes. I've also worked on enzyme immobilization of enzymes that are required in our plant processes. So these were my contributions in the industry. So I would want to state what are the insights that I feel are important for being a strong contender in the industry. See, these are the uh, things that help me in the long run. Okay, so basically, focus rightly. This is my first takeaway. Read about newer lab techniques that reduce experiment time. Now, you say reading is a very vague word. I can read even a 12th class biology book, or I can read even a vendor manual. It's up to you, basically. But when in an industry, it is very important that you have limited time, but you still have to prove yourself. So the best and the good way that I thought to refresh my knowledge was to read the vendor manual. For example, if I get a restriction enzyme, I would rather read on NEB website, okay, rather than going on to any kind of traditional textbooks. Okay, so go on to such kind of websites. They are competing with each other. For example, NEB is competing with any of its partner, and they are coming out with newer technologies, and it is good for you to understand the state of art technologies at one place in a limited time, but just by looking at these websites. NEB also has a support center wherein you can actually ask what could be the ways in which I can address this cloning issue that I'm facing in my project. Also, a similar case with Sigma. If you order any kind of enzyme from Sigma, you can write to them that can you please give me a PDF copy of the method of its assay. Okay, then you can optimize it for your lab. That is a different story. But you can actually ask the supplier itself how have they tested the product and what are the quality standards that they claim. What are the methods through which the quality standards have been claimed. So this is the smarter way that I have determined, that you refer vendor websites and manuals, grasp new takeaways for the project you are working upon. So if I am working today on lignin modifying enzyme, it makes no sense to spend my time on hydrogen technologies. So that has to be the right focus. Yeah, I'm working on lignin modifying enzymes. I have given the work of engineering Pichia pastoris. I will only work about what is the best way that I can reduce this cloning time. So that will help you to grow faster in an industry. Okay. And other examples that I've listed here in the slide is ligation versus Gibson assembly. For example, when you are out from MSc, you are taught traditional ligation. But traditional ligation, how is it done? You take the vector, you take the insert, you decide 1:3 or 1:5 ratio of that insert and vector. You ligate it with ligase enzyme. You either keep it for 2 hours or you keep it for overnight at 16 degrees Celsius. Then you go and you transform it into your organism. Then you select the colonies. But there is this thing called as Gibson assembly. Okay, Gibson assembly is very simple. You just digest the vector. You have the insert, you have the molar ratios fixed. In 15 minutes your ligation is done. You transform on the same day. So get to know about these technologies. Now Gibson assembly will not be taught in a textbook, so it is through vendor websites or through kind of manuals through which we understand such kind of technologies. Second is restriction enzymes versus type 2s restriction enzymes. The restriction enzymes, now those who are biologists will understand this. Restriction enzymes give complementary ends, but type 2s restriction enzymes is you can have all kind of ends and you can clone multiple inserts all at once. So the if your work takes 10 days, perhaps by selecting the right enzyme, it takes only 2 days or 3 days. That is how you show your productivity in an industry. Okay, so you identify right resources, and it is best to go what is offered in the go by the technology that is offered in the market, because industry can pay you for technology, but they pay you for selecting the right technology. That is the point. Second is understand commercial outlook. Read about potential biomolecules. Potential biomolecules that have opportunity in the market. Usually, if you go for platform biomolecules, they will always find opportunity in the market. Okay, but you can also go for what are the latest trends that are going. For example, now with the cosmetic industry having a very good shape in the market, hyaluronic acid came up as a very good product. Okay, that is not a platform molecule, but that is a molecule which is very high value. Okay, so basically you have to read about potential molecules. Mostly platform molecules are something that are highly talked in various market segments basically. Then you can read about chemical weekly websites. You can read it online or you can have a hard copy of it. Then what has helped me is a very simple way of 20-minute time dedicated for news reading. Okay, that is the simple way. I used to read where did PM Modi ji go to inaugurate which kind of science thing, or what has he decided, which kind of policy is he building. That helps you in a long way to understand what research area you should be focusing upon. For example, because of Pratt's efforts in ethanol, we have a 20% bioethanol blending policy today in India. Okay, when you have a policy in place, you get the market. That is the simple relation. Okay, अगर गवर्नमेंट लेजिस्लेटिव मेजर्स है, गवर्नमेंट ने मैंडेट रखा है, तो कस्टमर का बायस कस्टमर को ऑब्लिगेटरी होता है कि वो प्रोडक्ट आपको इम्प्लीमेंट करना ही है. तो फॉर because of which 60% market of ethanol can be acquired by the ethanol technology developers. Okay, so Praj has a good stake in ethanol because there is bioethanol policy in place. Okay, so ये कहाँ से समझ में आता है? ये आप न्यूज़ पढ़ लो कि बाबा, what is PM Modi thinking, what is his call, what is his messages, because all these speeches are highly curated. Whatever these politicians speak, they are with a very long run. So they help you in your research framework as well. Okay, so this is my simple thing that has helped me also. So then focus on reading microbial properties. For example, when you talk about any commercial process tomorrow, people will encourage you, leader banna hai industry mein, to aap thoda research proposal लिखो. The research proposal don't go by having a very big kind of CRISPR कैसी मैं डालूंगी उसमें वगैरह, ऐसे नहीं है. आप right niches select करो. तो basically you have to select the right biomolecules. You have to understand what is the current productivity offered by any kind of microbe that is present into the environment. Every time we cannot go to the soil. Okay, it is wiser to have this biodiversity exercise that has excellent potential. But you think from a beginner mode or you think from a broader mode. कि लोगों ने क्या किया है? As in, for example, tomorrow if I start with 1,3-propanediol, 1,3-propanediol का प्रोडक्टिविटी 2 ग्राम पर लीटर पर आर किसी ने रिपोर्ट किया है क्या? अगर किया है, ओके, देन उस प्रोसेस को मॉडिफाई करना है, उसका कमर्शियल एंगल अच्छा है, ठीक है, आई विल राइट अ प्रपोजल, मे बी आई विल ट्राई टू इम्प्रूव इट टू 3 ग्राम पर लीटर पर आवर. So that research will be counted by many people and valued by many people rather than going for any kind of offbeat thing which will not have proper foundation of commercial angle, of producer microorganism robustness, of separation and purification operations. So think of building something based on such foundation, very clear and concrete foundations. And lastly, which is the most important thing, as experimenters, we are very curious, very enthusiastic to create data. कि चलो मैंने 10 एक्सपेरिमेंट लगा दिए, मुझे अभी इसका रिजल्ट आ गया. Okay, you have results, but it is very, 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 very important to analyze your data. It is very important. It is important to understand what are the outliers in your data. It is important to understand what is the real average of your data, what is the standard deviation of that data, what is the standard error in that data, what is the t-test p-value. This statistical understanding is of uttermost importance, whether you put any flask experiment or you put any kind of demo plant experiment, anything you do. But analysis of your data is very, very important, for which basic statistic understanding is crucial to all the researchers, which is I feel. Then second insight that I want to give is attend recommended trainings, outbound programs and workshops. So when you are a part of industry, you are under constant scrutiny. ऐसा नहीं है कि आपने ज्वाइन कर लिया कंपनी और कोई भूल गया आपको. आपको ऐसा लगता है that we are lost in the system, but we are not lost in the system. We are tracked in the system. Okay, company decides to pay you, it decides to track you as well. So basically, it recommends some programs. Okay, ki baba, you go for this, outbound training program. Outbound training program is just like uh, team building activity, but it is important. Okay, then sometimes you have some competitor lectures, कोई scientist, कोई Nobel laureate आ रहे हैं, उनका lecture है, या फिर you have some kind of industry professionals, you have somebody who is an academician who is coming to the industry. So it is important to go and attend those lectures, even if you found it very routine. It is the best way to network. Okay, you will find it very hard to go out of your home and take that person's appointment to meet up and discuss things. That person will not have time for you. But when you attend a talk, it is the best way to network and without appointment. So, and you get an idea of what matters. So when that person is presenting only what matters. Okay, so it is important to attend the recommended trainings that are suggested by the industry. Then you have to increase your communication. Okay, so when how is the environment in the lab? You have 4 or 5 researchers working in a small space. Okay, so somebody is working for their inoculation, somebody is trying to put up a PCR, somebody is doing centrifugation, somebody is cleaning up their space or anything, and you have a team meeting that has happened. So you have to discuss with everybody ki, okay, your result was good, but what if you tried this method? Will it work for betterment? So this is the way we have to interact about the research that has been happened in the meetings, or the research discussions that have been happened in the meetings, or the research that you see that is there. You have to contribute constructively in all those kind of things, and you have to participate. So, and we have to take notes whenever you are attending anything. It is good to carry. So this is our PMC sir always says that it is important to attend a meeting with a pen and paper. A very basic funda, but it helps in the long run. You have to take notes. Perhaps you get a roadmap for your future career. That is a it does happen. As in, you get an insight which is important for maybe a next research problem that will come to you maybe tomorrow. And the third thing, that is, have a problem solving mindset. Okay, so basically, industry does not select experts. Industry selects problem solvers. This is what I have to say it in a very humbly and a generic pattern, as in a very generic tone that I say. Experts are expensive. Sorry, but this is the reality. Industry prefers problem solvers. Resilient people, problem solvers, are encouraged in an industry. So basically, casually discuss on lunch tables. Okay, how was your review? How did it all go? What was your chairman's reaction? What was MD's reaction? What was CTO's reaction? What insights did he give? Is it worthwhile? And then casually discuss on coffee chats, on lunch tables. And I think that, you have to have a uh, intent of being considerate, or being a part of the team, rather than being critical. Arey, ye kya ho raha hai? Don't have that critical mindset. Okay. Sometimes it is human nature that, you try to put yourself brighter by stating that is not much, the other thing is not much brighter. It is okay in some cases, but I feel that it is important that you do have an intent of to solve the problem, to be a part of the system, to be helpful, considerate, and kind. Because industry notices this strides. Industry notices that you have a team building spirit, you have a merging spirit, and it definitely counts. Okay, of course everybody tries to build their brand, that this is done by me. Sometimes it is important to emphasize in some cases, but I feel, when you see any problem, have a considerate mindset rather than being critical about it. Be empathetic about it, that how can we actually solve this problem. Next thing that I want to tell you is my suggestions for upskilling. So basically, there is life outside the lab as well, and which is important, and one should be ready for opportunities which leverage your scientific knowledge, and you have to be ready for that. So my recommendations to somebody who has just passed out MSc, passed out bachelor's, wants to pursue an MSc, but still wants to know what do I want to do after my MSc or anything. I wish that they prepare for the patent agent exam. So patent agent exam is the one who actually does this work of converting the scientific work into a patent. The mediator of that all is a patent agent. So there the advantage is you have a knowledge of a lot of things. You read a lot of things, you understand the patentability criteria, your scientific knowledge is developed in a much better scale by being a patent agent. So try to work towards that exam. I see a lot of openings in the clinical research area as well, wherein they encourage freshers or people with 2 to 3 years of experience, anything of that sort. So, if you find good places where you get clinical research courses, maybe backed by proper certification, backed by Government of India, backed by proper industries, I definitely recommend you to take those upskilling programs. So now, most of you who have come into BSc and MSc sometimes realize, oh, I might have done well in IT, okay, but I selected this maybe, then how do I go back? Now, do I have to learn coding? Do I have to start from C, C++, Java, and all of that? No, you don't have to. Basically, you can still leverage your scientific knowledge. There is this field called as computer system validation and computer system assurance, which have good jobs for freshers. Also, it has good job for experienced candidates. And there are number of places, ISO certified organizations, or
certified bodies which actually offer these courses of CSV and CSA with a good job assurance. And CSV and CSA roles are mostly remote. So basically, it is helpful in the long run also. So you don't have to, bind yourself to a specific location. That is why I also recommend this course for many freshers to be taken up. Fourth thing is, once you become some kind of experienced person in your journey, you can also pass this quality management system. You can be a lead auditor because, auditing is not a daily job. You have to do it as and when it comes. But if you are not in a position to pursue a full-time employment, then perhaps you can take up this lead auditor course, complete your coursework for observatory audits, and then become a lead auditor. You are still in touch with the scientific knowledge. You can leverage your scientific knowledge, and you can make up your career as a lead auditor. Then prepare for project management courses. So there are many industries also which require people from a biology angle, but they require project management expertise, okay, for their niche applications, maybe an IT industry or even such kind of life science industry. So basically prepare for the project management. Of course, these are done after some kind of experience that you have, professional experience that you have, but it's a good to have skill. Then also medical writing. Medical writing is also a wonderful field. People say that, okay, it is only a scientific writing. No, it is not. It is a very structured way of building your career. So and there are also some certain institutes that provide courses on medical writing with job assurance. So it's not a bad field. You definitely can have a very good way of entering entering the industry through this. And fourth thing, like fifth, I think this is the seventh thing. The seventh thing that I want to put in is, this is not related to science, but this world is highly digitizing. Okay, so today you have to be a digital literate. It is very, very important. Today you start yourself as a freelance or you be there in an industry. Okay, it is important that you enhance your digital literacy. So I recommend you all to pursue this course of digital marketing. I'm not emphasizing on any kind of institute, but the coverages in that course are very good. So if you get a very good institute like Seed by, any kind of computer training institutes that you see, I think a course on digital marketing after your MSc will also build a wonderful career in the long run. Then, when we talk about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics roles for people, now how do I enter here? The first thing is job portals, a very good way. Naukri.com also has many people have very good experience with Naukri.com. Second is research institute vacancies and central and state government exams for job roles. These also have wonderful prospects for a very stable research career. Third thing that has come up, when I was astonished that there are various Facebook groups as well, which give you freelance job opportunities. And these are not bad. These are good. Okay. So you have to also being in touch with social media for freelance content writing, for landing page creation, for, part of video editing. Even if you edit a scientific content of a video or you give a video script for a scientific video, it is going to increase your knowledge. You're still leveraging your knowledge. So basically you have to look out and be alert for social media as well. Then walk-in drives are wonderful ways. You don't that is the way in which you don't even require any network. So walk-in drives is something that you should register yourself to any WhatsApp channel or a Telegram group in which you get an updates of walk-in drives, and you should definitely go to the walk-in drive that you can. Then you can also enroll yourself for courses with placement assistance. Okay, for example, Hustle Post Academy is a very good academy in which the mentor Saloni Srivastava, she has excellent roadmap for freelancers. You don't have to be engaged with any one person. You can be engaged in multiple roles. You can work as per your free time, and you can still make a good amount of money. And if you are looking on an international scale, I would definitely urge you to go to this website, biomade.com. The trademark is biomade over here. and it has list of companies and institute abroad which are engaged in biomanufacturing. So tomorrow, if you want to zero down on any some university or any workplace where you want to work upon, you definitely can have a look on this page, and just this will help you in identifying the right place for you to study further. So my final thoughts on this. So when you are at work, balance being calculative and passionate. Okay. So sometimes you say, I'm not paid for this, I'll not work towards this. ऐसा नहीं चलता है. Sometimes you are passionate. Okay, I'll burn the bridge. I'll just burn my weekends. I'll burn everything. But then you ultimately are not good at the finish line. So don't do that. Be calculative and passionate. Balance both, while you are working in an industry. For second thing is show up at workplace. Attendance matters. Okay, so it is not like college ki baba you bunk today. Your attendance matters. You're paid out for your attendance after all. That is also there, but your attendance matters. You have to show up. You have to go for interviews. You have to after you get an entry into the industry, you have to be present every day. Some a kind of changes do happen in our thought processes when you are engaged in same kind of activity every day. So basically it is important to show up, reach out to people. You have to increase your soft skills. That is very important. Then create and propose opportunities for yourself. Okay, for example, if you see a blank time कि okay सब slow चल रहा है, कि एक project चल रहा है, it has been running for 2 years, but I see that if I need to have that promotion within 1.5 year tomorrow or 1 year tomorrow, I need to drive something for myself. So you have to talk with your manager that perhaps you can give me that and life cycle analysis opportunity. You give me some data analysis opportunity. You give me some content writing opportunity. Okay, I might as well try and go and talk with this customer. I might also work for an email marketing assignment if you require, if that is a business requirement. So basically you have to create opportunities for yourself. Then be curious and alert, which is very, very important. Information can fall from anywhere. Then keep upskilling no matter the age or stage of career. Then be updated to use digital technology efficiently. If needed, upskill there as well. So for example, digital technologies today, everybody works in MS Teams. Okay, and MS Teams has multiple features being integrated into it, and we cannot use those all efficiently. Okay, so understand. So tomorrow, if I have to manage my manager's work, okay, which kind of team app do I require? What are the buttons that I require? So just be updated to use such kind of digital technology efficiently, and then aspire to grow and progress always. So progress is the only puja that I feel is important for any researcher. So basically aspire that in the long run. This is what I have to say finally, and I wish you all a very good luck for your career, and I hope that all your aspirations do come true. Thank you. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So, thank you, Apurva. That was so encouraging and exactly the kind of questions that we, as in, were thinking with the students. Like, you can ask her this, you can ask her that, and we were just having this discussion. And a majority of them you have really answered. So we have one person who has raised her hand, and it's yeah. Please go ahead, Zia. You can unmute yourself, open your camera, and just go ahead. I think I'll jump into this situation where we can all contribute towards asking questions. We have about 15 to 20 minutes left. So either I see hands or I ask a questions. Okay, Zia, can you please unmute yourself and ask the question? You can switch on the camera also. Yes.
Am I audible?
You're audible.
Yes.
First of all, I would like to tell Apua ma'am that was wonderful session, and
Thank you.
your career path is really very beautiful, ma'am. Right in the beginning, you focused on the upskill section, and in that you mentioned that email marketing, something about email marketing. So
Right.
could you please little elaborate about the email marketing?
Yeah. So what happens is when you kind of raise a business, any business, okay, for that matter, you need to raise an audience for that business, okay? You need to reach out to people through email marketing, as in, so you have a database of 20,000 users, and then you have your digital products going out every 2 days, every 3 days. So you need to synchronize this process. So there are certain software called as MailChimp, okay, in which you can actually identify, you can actually automate such kind of emails, and you can help your products reach to multiple markets. So this is a skill which is required by startups. For example, if there is a small nursery, okay, or a small tissue culture organization, it has to reach multiple audience. So email marketing, there are automation tools which help, which use the mode of email in order to market the business that you are intended to build the business value out of it.
Okay, so it's a part of like advertisement kind of,
Yeah. It is a part of, it is a
like
part
a promotion.
promotion, correct.
Okay.
So somebody has asked, could you shed some light on AI in the industrial work and application? Is there anything that you can help us understand, Apurva?
Yeah. So basically, AI, I don't, to be very honest with you, AI cannot replace manpower. At the moment, I don't see such situation in the industry. But definitely AI comes to help in small jobs. For example, I have to collate information about plastic policies, maybe bioplastic policies in India. So ChatGPT comes to my rescue, Copilot comes to my rescue, or Gemini comes to my rescue. So that is how we have been mildly using AI. Baki, for all the jobs, research jobs, I don't see AI being there on a very large scale. So basically, biotechnology or chemical technology does not run at the pace of IT. Okay. They have a completely different stream working, and they have their own paces. So it is good to know AI. It is good to know how you can actually prepare wonderful presentations. You can help in communication, you can help in creating better content, you can fetch content from different places. There it is, there is a good amount of AI that has been used. But specific application, I don't think there anything worked about largely in Praj. But yes, there are attempts for the future. But so far it has been on conventional science and the conventional methods that the customers require.
So I think one of the Vigyan students has a question, Vaishnavi. She wanted to ask, one is that she's a pharma postgraduate and in pharmaceutical chemistry. So what opportunities are there in Praj for such background, students with such background? And I think she's also asked that, could you help her understand a bit about tech transfer? And what does it in, how do you start a career in tech transfer? What does it involve?
Yeah. So basically, coming from a pharmaceutical background, Praj is not working in pharma space. To be very honest, it works in the renewable energy space. So if you are focusing on pharma, you have to target pharma companies in the Hinjawadi belt, as in Emcure, the Emcure, and likewise Lupin, Emcure, likewise. Uh, but if you are talking about the chemistry space, definitely you can work in Praj using your chemistry knowledge. Okay, so you can reach out to people in Praj and you can ask for vacancies there, or you can uh, LinkedIn opportunities are there, you can reach there out. Secondly, I would humbly suggest you, since you are from a pharma background, you upskill yourself in regulatory affairs, you will have ample job opportunities there. So that is the area that I want to suggest you. Thirdly, tech transfer. So tech transfer is at various stages. Okay, so basically it is also a lab to bench scale fermenter transfer, bench scale fermenter to pilot plant transfer, pilot plant transfer to demo plant transfer, demo plant transfer to customer end transfer. So I am not sure what kind of tech transfer do you want clarification upon.
But I would want to tell you, when it comes to tech transfer, it is largely engineering job. It is because all of these lab processes are highly, are highly simplified till that end. What it comes to tech transfer in engineering domain is what are the kind of pressure temperature requirements that are going through it, what kind of control systems are in place, then what kind of what is the vendor side, like what is the supplier side of mode of raw materials, and what is the buyer side of raw materials. So, what are the physical properties of those raw materials? So, basically, it is mostly a design, process engineering, proposal engineering job when it comes to tech transfer. It is not mostly related to pharmaceutical. This is what I've seen for processes that are present in Praj. Okay, if you talk about chemical industries, then maybe we'll have to read more about it. But in Praj, the tech transfer is usually a engineer job, basically engineering job.
Next we have Dolly. Dolly, can you please unmute yourself and also maybe switch on your camera to ask the question? Please
Yes,
go ahead.
ma'am. Good evening, ma'am. My name is Dolly Sangaren, and I have done my
evening.
pharmacy in. I have done my master's in pharmaceuticals. So I have a question: any openings in Praj Industries for me? As I had worked on a microbial. As I have my project on the microbial evaluations.
Well, I am not the right person to tell are there any openings in Praj or anything. But I think you being a pharmacy background, you can just have a check on the job portals. There are, Pharma Bharat is one portal where I see a lot of pharmacy jobs coming in, and there are walk-in drives for a lot of time in Pune that are happening in Hinjawadi area. So you can participate in those walk-in drives, and definitely you'll land up in a job.
As I am having the microbial background, so is it um,
Well, I don't discourage you on that. You it's good to have that background, but the thing is, the requirement for specific job will be highly specialized. If they're taking you as a microbiologist, then they will want a degree in microbiology. Just an experience would not be sufficient at their end. So
So
this is what I have to state that I'm not sure. I don't
I have a
discourage.
question in continuation of this one is that while applying for positions in a company or industry, should one align what is interesting to you in the future, or should one align what do I have like in terms of qualification and then apply? What is a better way of applying in terms of them getting converted into a positive outcome?
I think the
Like
second option, to be
what I
very
have as
rational.
qualification. Okay.
Yeah. Because intended is, see, it is in everybody is not clear on what one wants in the long run. Everybody does not have a very good long view of things. This is what my opinion is. But your qualifications are silently building your domain knowledge, and you are a better expert with respect to your qualification than your intention.
So,
So,
I'll tell you why I'm asking this question because there are some niche area of subjects where people would take only synthetic pharma or something like that. There are very core subjects in which they have done their masters and their BScs, whereas you will know that biotechnology as a course is very vast. You know, you will
hmm,
learn small aspects of everything. Now, I
hmm.
want to understand industry when you have a call open for a position, what would you prefer a candidate to be? Would you judge every candidate in the same way, like whether it is biotechnology or from a niche area which is very suitable for your project? Or would you see that, no, I want somebody very specific and not look at other applications? Like that would help students understand where do I put my eggs in the basket? Like, if I am a biotechnology student, I'd prefer going somewhere where my skill set would be used but not here, like in Praj or somewhere like that.
So basically, I have to tell you, if I am on the interviewing position, okay, I would look at my project requirements very clear. Because, if a person is coming, if I'm taking a person who is required for fermenter operation, I will look for a person who has experience in fermenter operation. Or a person, if I have to take up a fresher, I can pay only for a fresher, for example. I will at least take up a person who has done MTech in bioprocess technology. I mean, I would not prefer an MTech in mechanical engineering or even a chemical engineering. Okay, chemical engineering has majority aspects of
Yes.
process function also related to bioprocess technology. But then I will prefer somebody from bioprocess background as it. Uh, there are, offbeat, I mean, there are my peers also, who have done bachelor's in chemistry, then in microbiology, then ventured as a microbial. But your latest qualification matters. Okay, it is very important that way. And I think I have seen most of the entrants with some kind of background, definitely there, a significant background, and then they are taken up for that positions. So it is good to decide your career path based on what you have in the certificate. You definitely get some opportunities, but as an entrant, it is good to go based on qualification. Then you can prove yourself, okay, I can do this also better, that also better, and then you can find your niche there. Not a problem. But at an entrant level, it is good to go on the paper or
Um,
something you have to put for the experience.
I wanted to ask you that how do students get into this habit of networking? Because in the industry, networking is very important, and oftentimes young professionals, young adults are very uncomfortable. They are shy. What would get them as a practice to work on it? Everybody's shy, but people have to work on it as a job requirement in the industry. How would you suggest we go about it?
So networking, I would suggest is the easiest way I would recommend to freshers. Okay, you're talking about freshers, right? I mean students as in.
Yeah.
Write LinkedIn posts. Okay, the easiest way. LinkedIn is something that is seen by a fresh graduate to a very experienced person. Okay, write something. Instead of creating a Facebook post, I would encourage to write a LinkedIn post. You definitely get visibility on that page. That is one way. Secondly, you can start your blog. Okay, you are afraid to reach out people, no problem. You can start your blog. There are certain paid, you have certain blogging course कहीं भी कर लेंगे आप, तो आपको पता चलेगा कि आपका डोमेन कहाँ पे बाय करना है, आपको कहाँ पे होस्ट करना है. आप ब्लॉग शुरू कर दीजिए. Thirdly, you build your portfolio. Okay. Now, when you see IT students, they have their portfolio on GitHub kind of a thing. Even I'm new to that thing. Using Python or anything, they try to do something. They have their portfolio on GitHub kind of a thing. So you can create your own portfolio, not on GitHub, but on Wix, for example, and you can post it on your blog that I'm available as a writer, or I write such kind of scientific content. You can take up my LinkedIn post. These are the you know non-verbal ways of networking that I would say. Second, the actual ways of networking is attending the conventional ways. You attend events, you attend things, and you write to those speakers. Yesterday I attended your talk, it was quite encouraging. I think that I would want to work more on this, and could you provide certain extending article that I can read upon or anything. You make your presence felt there. That is the second way. Now, industry networks are good for jobs. This is something that comes out in the market, but I'll tell you how it works for job capture actually. Okay. Network is not something that, I see you as my friend and I recommend you and then you are placed there. No. My guide and his boss are friends. My guide's training, okay, is known by his boss or her boss, and that is why I am hired. Okay, so people gauge you for the quality of work, which is very, very important. Okay, they gauge you for your thinking process, they gauge you for the training that you have given. Even they don't gauge you for your strengths or the presence that you make, or मतलब आप कितने मतलब क्या बोलते हैं उसको, you lit up the room or anything. No, no. What works for a job is your work, where you get the training. That works most.
So try such ways of networking, where you have a communication in place, you have your write-up in place. This is the way in which you can actually improve your visibility. You can get hold of opportunities. Somebody might recommend you depending on your work, depending on the goodwill of the place that you are working upon. This is the way you can network. So I think if somebody discourages you कि ये क्या कल का पड़ा हुआ दिखा रहा है, don't get I mean that way of networking even I have not done. I don't go and talk to people, and I'm an introvert. Basically everybody has a different set of notions as to how you want to perceive. I mean motivation is necessary or not, या हर एक का अलग अलग question होता है. So what I do is I write posts, I reach out people through my work. And I think that way of networking is something I believe works in a very good way through your work. And this is what I feel. Baki, I mean, yeah, internal hiring is a major case in industry. I agree upon that. But that is also through the quality of work. That is not through making relationships, but matlab, making any friendly relationships or anything of that sort. It is only through work. And secondly, the best way is to go for recruiting agencies. Okay. If you want to enter an industry, go for recruiting agencies, find out certified recruiting agencies, go and enroll there, pay your fee there, pay your resume there. You will get a job there, through there. So that is a good way, I feel.
So, and this is one of the last questions. So, I really was very curious to understand that, as compared to PhD in a research in academic environment, um, how different would be a PhD which is done in a fully industrial setup where everything that you are working on has the direct commercial use and has how you run it, therefore how efficiently, how well you run it, is all going to have a direct bearing on the product development and everything. Do you think that is a stress? Do you think that is very helpful? Or do you think that they both have their own merits and so one cannot be compared with the other?
Both have their own merits. They both have their own merits. There are certain comparison points. See, when you come out of an industrial research or industrial PhD, you are more used to robustness. कि बाबा मतलब robustness in every angle, हाँ मतलब as in इतना काम तो करना ही है. I mean that is not an applauding. इधर से लेके कि सिस्टम बंद पड़ गई है तो दूसरी सिस्टम ले लो एज एन ऐसे. फिर मोटिवेशन हर जगह नहीं मिलता है. यू आर नॉट विथ योर पियर्स और एनीथिंग. You have to be self-motivated most of the time. And it is a business, it is a research which runs like कि ये नहीं वर्क हुआ ना दूसरा कर लो, दूसरा नहीं वर्क हुआ ना तीसरा कर लो, तीसरा नहीं वर्क हुआ ना चौथा कर लो. I mean, you jump out of situations basically. In academic research, it is mostly why did it not work? Okay, so my gene did not get cloned. So was there any problem with the gene? Here you will say change the gene. इतना time नहीं है अपने पास. As in, we are not to dig deep in the science. We have to answer for the next meeting. As in, ऐसा. So, but as when I work with my colleagues who are from academic PhDs, I have huge respect for their depth of knowledge. That is certain.
Okay.
But when it comes to problem solving ability or soft skills or driving ability, pushing ability, industrial PhD runs in a better way. Matlab, if you want to be a professional as sort, industrial PhD is a good choice. But if you want to be, if you love science lover or anything, I mean, both ways it's good. I'm not anybody to say anything is bad. But I would say that what I have learned is we jump into situations quickly. We also do science. We like final product is scientifically valued both ways. I mean, academicians also value our research and we also value our research. But we jump situations faster. They are into कि ये क्यों नहीं हो रहा है, क्या हो सकता है. ओके, एंड वी आर टाइम बाउंड वर्क होता है कि 9 बजे आना है, 5 बजे निकलना है, 8 बजे आना है, 5 बजे निकलना है. तो वी हैव टू शफल थिंग्स कि ओके ये होने के बाद ये होने के बाद ये नेचर में बैठ जाता है. एकेडमिशियंस का कैसे है कि ओके सब जाने के बाद अगर रिसोर्स मिल रहा है तो हम ले लेंगे। ऐसे थोड़ा मतलब वो माइंडसेट ट्रेनिंग भी अलग होता है दोनों चीजों में। और दूसरी बात मतलब द डेप्थ ऑफ ये भी अलग होता है। वी आर मोर इनटू कि कस्टमर इज हैप्पी, वी आर हैप्पी, ऐसा नोशन होता है। एज इन वी आर हियर इट इज लाइक साइंस इज हैप्पी, वी आर हैप्पी। So that has how the difference is.
So I will kind of wrap up the session saying, see, what was the whole idea of having you as a very important speaker, as I would say, for the young generation is they need to decide. The time is very limited. Things are moving way faster to even, assimilate information and then act on it. So they need to prepare themselves way ahead in time, very clearly what they want to do. Right. So you helped in organizing that for them, that where all they should read and everything. Second thing is they have to actually look inside themselves. By the end of masters, you are pretty much aware of what kind of a constitution you have as a person. Do you want to do an in-depth study? That kind of clarity you should have. Or you want to be a professional in the industry who's working with, cutting edge and nearer to technology things which are utilized in a commercial way. So that decision, this is all coming together for professional maturity, which students, whatever you say, have to have at the right time. They do not have luxury of time to say मैं पहले करूंगी और फिर देखूंगी बाद में how I am suitable. It's the other way around. If they do it in the beginning, it goes much easier without much of a track switch, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of very nicely also helped us through our Q&A and all your question answers, saying how do you condition yourself once you are in the industry. It's not easy. Life is not a piece of cake and you just walk through it, and it's very tough. But you will have to have these quality to kind of keep shifting focus in doing this. And if I might say, looking at your trajectory yourself as a career journey in the industry, we now know more or less how a professional goes from being a graduate to getting very well adjusted in the industry field. And with increasing time of your, now maybe personal commitments coming up, you are selecting according to your experience and your
Yeah.
interest the right thing that fits. At the end,
Yes.
it comes a time point where things should fit with you, because you are not
Correct.
just a professional working, you're also a mother, you're also somebody who wants to be in the workforce. So that's amazingly a very nice role model, I would say, for students to kind of imagine themselves in the next 5 to 10 years and think of it in a similar way, that that's how I want it to be. And I think
Thank you.
I really kind of thank you for spending so much time and effort building this PPT, building the right atmosphere for the students and the audience who is here today gathered. Apurva, thank you so much.
Thank
And
you. Thank you so much.
I would also thank my audience who've taken the time to come here. I assume this would be a wealth, a treasure trove of knowledge for you all. And we intend to bring different flavors of success to you. And this is one today. We will come out with more in the coming future, few months. And we have lined up some good talks for you. Do attend them. These are real people, and they can be used as role models for at least setting up your near goals. And that's what we think you should do when you go back. And the role models will shift with your kind of how you get what you get. Of course they will evolve over a period of time into a phase that you find of yourself over there. So I really encourage you to be a part of this talk series we hold every month. Do come again. And also wedging into this session where so many young students are there, apart from my Vigyan students, we have opened the call for the Vigyan Scholarship and Mentorship Program for the next year. It was opened on 1st June. It will close on 15th August. Do look up our website and our LinkedIn posts to understand more about this scholarship program. And in the end, thank you so much for everyone to have joined
One
us.
thing, just one thing, Ritika, I would just urge that the attendees email, if you have, you can send it to me. So any updates, I can send it to them. I mean, just a
Yes,
humble request if it's possible.
yes, yes. In fact, I was just going to tell you that we have a lot of questions that we did not take, and they were like directly like, I am this and I need to get into a company like this. Would it be a good fit? If you don't mind with the emails, can I share you a number of questions and you can answer whichever thing
Yes.
maybe you are, in a clearer way to answer, and we will share it back with those candidates. I'll
Sure, sure.
definitely get that set up if you are okay with that.
I'm okay. You can send me across those questions. I'll be happy to answer. Also, whatever you have, the email list of the people, if anything else comes up, then I can definitely reach out to them as well, or through you, whatever suits you.
Yes, that is so nice and generous of you to give us
Thank
that kind of, information. And of course, we will do that. Once again, everybody, and we look forward to having you again next month. Thank you, Apurva.
Thank you, Ritika. Thanks a lot.
We'll be in touch.